5th of April. I got that straight. 25th of April. And towards the end of the month, I know you're all busy, but I hope that the hour we will spend together is informative, rewarding. Kenko Dojo started, for all of the people who might be tuning in, Kenko Dojo started about 3 years ago. And up until relatively recently, I have conducted this weekly broadcast in Japanese. About 3 months ago, on the last Tuesday every month, I decided to do an English language broadcast. I know there's a great deal of information already out there on the internet. There are some very informative people with some very intelligent presentations about different aspects of fitness and health. So I'm not trying to replace them. I'm just trying to add to the information that they give to the viewing audience. I will try and focus on implementation of exercise programs, what I think you will need to know if you're pursuing fitness or thinking about getting involved in a fitness program. Initially, we started with the World Health Organization's guidelines for health, which included exercise. Most of you are already aware of what the World Health Organization advocates: elimination of smoking, at this point elimination of alcohol, which I know is tough for many of you, elimination of stress, or at least reducing it as much as possible, keeping your weight within World Health Organization guidelines, which are basically fat percentages, which vary from with age and difference between men and women. The percentages that are regarded as not injurious to your health are clearly elucidated. For men, it's between 15 and 23% body fat, plus or minus 3%, and for women, between 18 and 25%, plus or minus 3%. Hormonal influences reflect retention of body fat, the role that fat plays in terms of maintaining body temperature, protecting against trauma, and storing energy. Vary with lifestyle and other parameters. Age, sex contribute to how much body fat you will be able to handle and not have it negatively influence your health. We talked about body types, what is called somatotyping. Different body types store fat in different ways, develop in different ways. Something that you should probably be aware of when you're beginning an exercise program. And of course, then we have the other objectives, which above and beyond fitness are athletic pursuits, which is a good idea to have some athletic endeavor as an incentive program for your exercise program. Exercise for the sake of exercise is fine. Unfortunately, it is not easily sustained. It is sustainable if you are sufficiently concerned, but long term, it probably is better to have a pursuit that you can implement the physical capabilities you develop in a fitness center and then demonstrate them on the playing field, tennis, golf, these kinds of things. I will cover these in detail later, but right now, before you begin, or if you are involved in an exercise program, let me briefly run through the rewards that you can achieve. Most of you are certainly aware of what is advocated by professional associations, medical associations, American College of Sports Medicine. These are respectable associations that have your well-being in mind. The rewards are many, especially in terms of aerobic exercise. The term aerobics began in 1973 by a man by the name of Dr. Kenneth Cooper, who was a doctor in the United States Air Force, and he created the aerobics program, which dictated a certain amount of aerobic exercise per week for a certain number of points, and those points were accumulated over the course of months and years, and an indication of your commitment to an exercise program. He advocated jogging, and that triggered the jogging craze that still persists today. However, there are some miscomprehensions that I hope I can clarify for people. One of the problems is the mass media tells you one thing, and science may tell you something different. There is no short road to achieving physical excellence. It takes time. The body takes time to adjust to any imposed stress, and exercise is a certain level of physical stress which provides the impetus for the body to change and adapt. So let's cover aerobic exercise first. So all of you are certainly aware of different types of aerobic exercise. There's swimming, jogging, bicycling. I don't know how many are aware of the guidelines of which you should conduct aerobic exercise. So roughly, let me give you the arithmetic, the math behind this. The World Medical Association years ago decided that 220 beats per minute was the maximum heart rate that a human could tolerate. So everybody's different, age is different, physical capacity is certainly different. So the only constant that they could come up with is age. So 220, the maximum a human being beats per minute, the maximum a human being can tolerate, subtracting your age. So if you are 20 years old, 220 minus 20 is 200. That is your age-related maximum heart rate. And the idea is you maintain a certain percentage of that throughout your aerobic exercise, hopefully daily, but if not, whenever you do it, 220 minus your age, and you take that figure times a certain percentage. The minimum for any development, any change in the body, is 60% of that figure. So going back to our 20-year-old example, 260% is 120. So 120 beats per minute is something that a 20-year-old should maintain after a reasonable warm-up period of gradually working into the exercise program, and maintaining that 120 beats per minute for whatever period of time. American College of Sports Medicine recommends 45 minutes a day. That is somewhat excessive for most. But 30 minutes a day is, I think, a reasonable goal initially. The reward for 60% is you increase your red blood cells, and after a long period of time, capillary beds also increase, which is the basic exercise recommendation for hypertension and diabetes. However, it does have to be longer than 30 minutes, and you should do it every single day. Because red blood cells don't increase overnight, And capillary beds, small veins and arteries, do not increase overnight. It takes time, in many cases weeks and months. However, the results are recorded, legitimate, scientifically proven. 60% of your age-related maximum heart rate will give you an enhanced physical aerobic capacity based on increased red blood cells and increased capillary beds. So if you raise the bar a bit to 70% or 75%, then you start reducing LDL cholesterol, and HDL cholesterol, the good cholesterol, increases, as well as the previously discussed enhancement of red blood cells and capillary beds. So 75% is for our 20-year-old. Now we're getting into 140, 150 beats per minute, which is not easily maintained for the prescribed 30 or 40 minutes. So you have to decide where you can reasonably achieve a reasonable level and you can maintain it. The positive effects are myriad. Besides all the cholesterol and reduction and blood cell improvement, the more practical applications are long-term lowering blood pressure, long-term lowering resting pulse, reducing the burden on your body of perhaps not particularly positive nutritional pursuits like cakes and cookies and things that have a great many calories but very little nutritional value. The list is long, and I won't go into it in too much detail. What bothers me is the mass media equates weight loss with a total health situation. And although weight loss will contribute to reducing blood pressure and will contribute to lowering of blood fats and reduce the burden on the hips, knees, structural burden, all that is true. But primarily what they're advocating is to take medication of some kind of supplement, some kind of medication. Years ago there was this medication called fen-phen. One, I forget the formal term, but one reduced appetite and the other burned body fat. And a great many medical difficulties arose from using this essentially drug. The problem with taking medication or supplements is it doesn't affect behavior. So you will continue to do things that are not particularly good for you and instead taking a pill. Same thing goes for exercise. Because you exercise and because these exercise does all these very good things for you, inclusive of burning fat over long term, many people feel that they do not have to pay a great deal of attention to nutrition. And that's simply not true. I can give you a very, very dramatic example. A long time ago, about 30 years ago, there was an individual by the name of James Fix, and he wrote several books on running and the rewards and the difficulties and what you should be careful of when you went jogging. He was a marathon runner. He ran up to about 20 kilometers per day. And he was very successful at his with participation in these different marathons. Unfortunately, he passed away at the age of 35 of a massive coronary, basically a heart attack. So when they did the autopsy, I should say, when they did the autopsy, they found that his heart was strong, but the veins and arteries were clogged with cholesterol and blood fats. because after each 20-kilometer run, he would come home and indulge in cakes and pies and cookies and sugar, essentially sugar. The reason for this is when you exercise, especially when you aerobic exercise, your blood sugar drops dramatically. And so the body craves something to raise your blood sugar. To eat an apple or an orange doesn't seem to be what most people do. Most people, or many people, resort to cookies and cakes, something easily found and consumed, because their body craves sugar. So you have to exercise some self-restraint when it comes to combining nutrition and exercise. The rewards are high. The risks depends on what you do after you finish your exercise program to a great extent. So let me go one step further. When you achieve this heart rate, and go back to our 20-year-old individual who's running, and he's running at 60%, so he's running at 120 beats per minute, 120 heartbeats per minute, and then he decides that he wants to do more than that, and it's not sufficient. He's not tired, he's developed a certain amount of fitness, so he raises the bar to 70%, and then he raises the bar to 75%. And then one day he decides, well, I have developed sufficient physical capacity, I'm going to participate in a marathon. Well, that's a different ballgame. Especially a full marathon is 42 kilometers. I'm not going to go entirely into a full marathon training schedule. If you would like to hear about that, I can do a YouTube on that, if you like. The problems is when you do a full marathon, the burden on the heart, even if it is only at 60 or 70% of your age-related maximum heart rate, the burden on your body is significant. People who do not condition properly and think that running 30 or 40 minutes a day is sufficient are entertaining serious consequences. So the risks on the low end is simply a great deal of physical discomfort after the marathon, blisters, friction, burns on the armpits and inside your thighs, excessive fatigue, which you may not seem to be significant, but and also in the extreme, heart failure. It happens all the time, especially after a marathon. People who are not conditioned are very, very tired, and so they sit down, of course. Well, the trouble is when you sit down, you eventually entertain a tourniquet effect, the blood returning from your legs to your heart. If you sit down, you fold your body, and it places a tourniquet effect on that intravenous return. And if you stay seated and do not fall over prone, the chances are significant that you'll experience either a heart attack or some significant heart failure. So again, preparation for an extreme pursuit, and once you have finished whatever athletic pursuit you're involved in, taking care to rest sufficiently, to drink plenty of water during and after, and paying attention to proper nutrition, and resting in a way that doesn't increase the burden on your body but allows the body to rest sufficiently. Again, if you would like to hear about this in more detail, especially about a full marathon, I've done that. I've run the Honolulu Marathon 5 times. I'm very happy I did it, and it took me a full year to prepare for it each time, and I was very aware of the risk, especially for somebody my size, almost 100 kilos, 220, 200 and a quarter. To run a full marathon is not recommended. The structural problems, knees, back, are something long term after many years of participation in marathons. Structural difficulties may very well manifest themselves. So the risks are those type of risks. Primarily structural. Knees, back, something that we will discuss about other types of exercise programs as we proceed. The fitness guidelines that we discussed in the past, in the initial broadcast, we talked about effective conditioning, efficient conditioning, safe conditioning, and conditioning in a way that promotes continuity. So, effective and efficient depends on the individual, how much time you have, and how well informed you are about the exercise you're pursuing. Safe is a consideration that people tend to not be aware of, especially when people try to extend their capacity to their limits. So you hear a great deal about no pain, no gain, which is an absurd assertion. I was sitting in a coffee shop about a month ago, and I heard one person pontificating to another saying, if you don't injure yourself during your training, you're not exercising hard enough. If it wasn't so foolish and serious, I would have laughed. But it's not. And evidently, from what I hear, young men and women who are going to school, who are involved in athletic pursuits, are exposed to that mentality: no pain, no gain. If I remember correctly, the person who quoted that was a fellow by the name of Newt Rockney, who was a football coach, if I'm not mistaken, from a Eastern Ivy League college. And he was referring to mental discipline. So if there's no mental discipline, if you are tired and you don't push beyond that barrier, you will not improve to the extent of being a competitive American football player. Well, it may be all right for a group of athletes that are being supervised, and if something goes wrong, there's people there to take care of it. But for the average individual who is not 25 years old and who is 30 and 40 and older, to approach a maximum effort requires some planning. Full marathons are one very good example. You have to plan your exercise regimen and get all the rewards of increased performance and increased health and all of these things. At the same time, be aware of all the risks, the structural risks, the internal function, the cardiovascular risks. These things are something that you should be aware of. Especially in aerobic conditioning can be very, very serious. Very serious. The people who are in very good condition can approach this gradually increasing their level, 60% of age-related target heart rate, 70%, 75%, even 80%. But when you get past 85% of your age-related target maximum heart rate, for our 20-year-old, we're talking at 170 beats per minute. Beyond that, and people who are not conditioned can easily go beyond that. The chances of your heart entering what they call a fibrillated state, basically the heart muscle spasms, and if you're not, konbanwa, H8-san. If you're not aware of these things, you can have serious consequences. Excuse me for just a minute. HA さん、今日は英語の番ですからよろしくお願いしますね。英語勉強しますか？I'm not sure. HA さん, if HA さん, I'm happy that the person tuned in, but I'm not sure whether the English language is something that is readily understood. Anyways, so to continue, I've tried to cover aerobic conditioning. I've tried to re-emphasize the fact that efficient, effective, and safe approach to exercise is imperative, and that it provides for a continuity, something that is not so difficult that you stop after a week or a month or even 2 or 3 months. It is a level of exercise that allows you to do it on a continuing basis, essentially for the rest of your life, as part of your lifestyle. So, again, the rewards, enhanced physical capability, perhaps not extending your lifespan, although to a certain extent there is a great deal of substantive information that states that yes, the propensity for extending your lifespan is something that's a genuine reward. But it's more like extending the quality of your life. A very good author who I tune into, he also has an excellent broadcast, Peter Attila, who was in studied medicine at Johns Hopkins. He has written a book called Outlive. And what he refers to is increasing your quality of life, so that as we age, things change. Eventually, the body will give up. We know that. It makes life poignant in several respects. Nobody likes to think about it, but it will happen. We're not going to live forever. His position, and I tend to agree, is that as you age, you can maintain a very high quality of life up until the time when your time comes. So for most people approaching 70, things start to happen. Again, structural problems manifest themselves, internal problems manifest themselves. Physical capacity diminishes significantly. Cognitive function can reduce significantly. All of these happens as we age. What exercise does for you, and of course proper nutrition, it allows you to maintain a very active lifestyle up until the time when you simply can't do it anymore. And that adds about 15 to 20 years of enjoying life at the end of your life, from 70 to 90. Exercise plays certainly a very, very important role, as does what we discussed, the World Health Organization's abstaining from tobacco, alcohol, limiting stress, plenty of sleep, exercising daily. These kinds of lifestyle adjustments will, according to Dr. Attila and almost everybody I've talked to, will provide you for increased quality of life as you age. So, your aerobic program, that's the guideline, 220 minus your age, and that figure, a percentage of that figure, depending on your physical capacity, will enhance your physical condition and many other aspects, health aspects of your life, internal function. So 60% for a 20-year-old is 120 beats per minute. 60% for a 50-year-old is what? 176, 60, 40, is 102 beats per minute. So when you're exercising, it's very easy now with the devices that are available, watches and different health monitors. It's easy to monitor your pulse while you are doing your exercise, aerobic exercise. And the exercise of choice for most people who do not have any joint difficulties is jogging, weather permitting, or inside if weather does not permit. And time is between 30 minutes plus whatever you can manage daily. So that's the general guideline. Tonight is not all about aerobic conditioning and not all about what you have to do to run a marathon, but in the future we will cover that. So generally aerobic conditioning is a primary objective for most of us. It used to be the primary objective that the World Health Organization recommended and the American College of Sports Medicine recommended. Again, it was 30 to 45 minutes per day. That has changed somewhat. Now, muscular conditioning, resistance training has supplanted, on a priority level, aerobic conditioning. So your first priority, according to these organizations, is resistance training. And that is not easy to talk about. There are so many aspects of this. Everybody has a heart and lungs and veins and arteries and a whole circulatory system. And everybody's is about the same. Different capacities, certainly, but the organs per se don't change. Muscles are a little bit different. And then we have to talk about somatotyping, different body types. We have to talk about different types of muscle. We have to talk about what level of muscular conditioning you're interested in or you can benefit from. So, before we do that, let's for just a moment, let's review what fitness is all about. Fitness, up until recently, the last 2 or 3 years, has been your primary focus is aerobic conditioning. And then the muscular conditioning that you pursue is directed towards enhancing the muscles involved in aerobic conditioning. So that's how you train the musculature, legs, back, stomach, to allow you to do a longer or more intense aerobic workout. And flexibility, which is the third parameter, is that when you train your muscles to contribute to your aerobic capacity, your muscles become tight, and tight muscles fatigue easily, and tight muscles become injured if you're not careful. What flexibility does is it provides an assurance that the muscles will not fatigue easily and that their injury is reduced. So that's the priority basis up to now. Aerobic conditioning, muscular training to enhance your aerobic capacity, flexibility to loosen tight muscles so that they continue to fuel aerobic exercise. That's been the guideline of fitness. Now it's changed. And perhaps, although I don't know, perhaps it is because of an aging population who is simply not capable of running. As a matter of fact, walking becomes difficult. And joint integrity becomes difficult. So the solution from these responsible organizations are condition your muscularity first, and perhaps in conjunction with walking or slow jogging to improve your aerobic capacity. I settle on, I'm itemizing jogging, but it can be a stationary bicycle, it can be a regular bicycle, it can be rope skipping. The only reason I say jogging is because it's easy for everybody to do. You can do it in street shoes if you want. You don't have to have training wear on. bicycles are gyms. You may not be near a gym. You may not go to a gym. So everybody can jog or walk. So it's the easiest thing to do. So let's talk about resistance training for a moment. Where would somebody begin? What are the rewards? What are the risks? The rewards, everything is enhanced. Think of your body as a car engine. Think of having a 500 cubic centimeter engine that provides you with getting from place to place. Now, suppose you have a 2,000 cubic centimeter engine. Obviously, getting from place to place becomes that much easier. And that is primarily muscular strength. And strength is a relative term, but so muscular enhancement, let's put it that way, because strength and stamina are different. We'll get into that later. So muscular enhancement. So muscular enhancement affects everything you do. It affects how you sleep. It affects climbing stairs. It affects going shopping. These kinds of things. And these pursuits, these average, everyday pursuits, do not require enhanced aerobic capacity. You don't have to have a super strong heart and circulatory system to go shopping, but you do need to carry the bags home. And you don't need to develop your cardiovascular system to climb stairs. You need leg strength. And running and jogging and rope skipping, these kinds of things, if done improperly, can contribute to lower back pain. Well, that's what muscular conditioning can enhance, can improve. So the emphasis is as we go older. Certainly aerobic conditioning is a good idea. You should do it. I don't mean to minimize the effects. It's very, very effective. But in terms of getting through your daily schedule, daily life, presuming it's reasonably active, you require muscular strength. And as a beginner, regardless of your age, regardless of your experience, regardless of your age, I believe that you should begin with strengthening the musculature around your joints, primarily shoulders, lower back, knees, because those are the things that as you get older are intrinsically, are extremely important in conducting your daily life. Standing up from a couch, turn off the television, moving around, washing dishes. All of these daily activities, if you don't have the muscular strength to do them, severely impact on your quality of life. And that's why muscular conditioning is now a priority, even above aerobic conditioning. So, where should you begin? You should begin in the simplest, just like jogging. If you're about to embark on a running program, you start out by walking. And that can be, you'd be surprised how significant that can be. Muscular conditioning. Well, it's tough to say exactly what you should do first because everybody is slightly different. To go into all the differences is more time than we have. But for example, many people who become older cannot raise their arm. I'm broadcasting from Japan. In Japan, it's amongst older people, it's a serious problem. Because they don't raise their arm during their lifestyle, they wind up where you cannot raise your arm. You do not have the muscular strength to raise your arm. You may think that this is absurd, but I have known people who are 50 years old and cannot do a push-up against the wall. Not a regular push-up. Put their hands on a wall and push away. They do not have that level of physical strength. Which means if there was any kind of emergency where physical capacity was important in saving your life, they do not have that capacity. you will not have that capacity. I can give you a very good example about, I think it was last summer, the summer before, living in Tokyo. We get these minor earthquakes from time to time. People are used to it. People who are listening to this, I'm certainly experiencing them. Earthquakes are kind of something that happens, not necessarily on a daily level, but it happens. So I was in the subway, and alarms went off. So I was in the Shinjuku area, and my next place of employment was in Akasaka, which is about, if you walk it, it's about maybe a 30-minute or 45-minute walk. And the buses were full, and the trains were not moving, and there was bumper-to-bumper traffic, so there was no transportation, so the choice was to walk. And it was a reasonably warm day, and so I chose to walk. And I was carrying my training uniform with me in a bag, so it was not heavy, but it was on my shoulders, it was easy. Well, a lot of other people reached the same conclusion, and they began walking as well. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Shinjuku area, but from Shinjuku to the next station down, it's about a 10-minute walk, maybe 15. And people around me were sitting down exhausted. And they were not old. They were not 25, but they were probably in their 50s. They had been shopping, and they wanted to go home. So this was in Yotsuya, and people had stopped and rested, and you could see them complaining about the heat and having a very difficult time. Now I am as old as I am, and I am not a young man, but it wasn't a problem. It was relatively easy. But I spend 2 hours in the gym every single day. And for many people that's excessive, but for me to do what I want to do, that's what I do. It's simply part of my exercise regimen. Half of that is aerobics, half of that is muscular conditioning and stretching. So I try to practice what I preach. Anyways, these people were sitting down and they were exhausted. If it had been a serious earthquake and they had to go somewhere, and their survival depended on it, they did not have the physical capacity to save their lives, in my estimation. And to me, it brought home how important this can be. We talk about quality of life, and that's certainly important. But the basic physical capacity is simply necessary if you're in a situation where your life may depend upon it. So for that reason alone, daily exercise, I think, is a good idea. So, we've talked about 20 or 30 minutes of aerobic exercise per day, and that can be as simple as walking a little faster than strolling, between 4 and 6 kilometers per hour pace. And perhaps when you're done, a little bit of stretching would be fine. And now we get to muscular conditioning, and that means basically either going to a gym or doing a little bit of exercise at home. So where do you begin? If I were beginning, and a lot of professionals also recommend this, you work from the bottom up, legs first. The simple thing to do is to hold a water bottle, find a chair, stand up in front of the chair, sit down until your buttocks touch the chair and stand up again. And you can hold the book or the water bottle in front of you and sit down and do those repetitions. And if you can do 10, and you do that on a daily basis, just 10, that's all you have to do. 10 times, pretty soon it won't be enough. And the body will adapt, and you won't feel fatigued. So you say, well, if I can do 10, I'll just rest and I'll do another 10. And that's called a set. So you do one set of 10, then you do 2 sets of 10, and you work up to, say, 5 sets of 10. And then you get a bigger book or a bigger water bottle and raise the resistance. When you are doing resistance training, it is important to realize that your form, how you perform the exercise, becomes extremely important. Compensating for the resistance that you're using by using body English and throwing the resistance up will result in injury and no progress. Doing a partial movement of any exercise does not produce the required result or the objective result. So it has to be a full, what they call range of motion. For all of you who are not aware of this, this may seem very simplistic to all of you who are listening, but I see it all the time in the gym. People doing partial movements. They're either, people are using, not everybody certainly, but many people are using a resistance that is too light, so there's no adaptive response, so the body does not improve, or the weight is too heavy and they wind up getting injured or strained or so tired that they feel that it's not worth the effort. That's everybody's assessment. If you can go to a gym, and you're going to a gym, if I'm speaking to a native English speaker, most people are aware and that there are gyms available, and that they're readily available now. So I would suggest you definitely go to a gym that gives you some instruction. There are personal trainers, but the gyms should supply you with at least a beginning program, introduce you to the equipment, and work a basic exercise program up for you. Some things that you should be aware of when you begin. If you're going to make a mistake, err on the side of caution. I would suggest that if you're a beginner, you do one single set of 10 to 12 repetitions, and then you move to the next piece of equipment. Begin with exercises that work the muscles surrounding the joints first. So legs, certainly first. Core, which will strengthen your, which will help you avoid lower back difficulties. And shoulders, and which will hopefully avoid your shoulders freezing up on you and encountering immobility. The risks that you may be facing, if you're working with a very light resistance, the risks are minimal. The idea with any kind of training, whether it's aerobics or whether it's resistance training, is you are supposed to feel better after the workout, more energized after the workout than when you began. If you feel exhausted after the exercise program, then you're probably not exercising within your capacity. And you develop what they call a negative reinforcement, where if it's so fatiguing, so tiring, that it makes you feel bad, then you're not going to continue. So work within a perimeter that makes you feel you don't have to do all the muscles every day, but you should exercise the same muscles in generally twice a week. The reason is because, number one, the body will not adapt readily with simply one mild exercise per week. Any adaptation will be lost after 5 days. The body starts a deconditioning that goes back to where it was. And the body operates on a conservation of energy basis. So if you impose a level of stress on the body that promotes improvement, both aerobic and with muscular improvement, that's fine. But if you don't do enough, nothing happens and you get discouraged. In the gym there are many mistakes made by many, many people. People who are experienced. Either the resistance is too heavy or the resistance is too light. So you probably will need some assistance when you begin. To determine exactly how much resistance you use, there is a scientific formula, but it is not for the beginner. For the beginner, if you can do 10 repetitions, 3 sets of an exercise that involves as many muscles as possible, that's multi-muscle movements, not isolated movements, then that's where you should begin. The only risk with too light a weight, at least you don't run into muscle strain, but you run into being discouraged. And you say, well, this is not effective. With too heavy weights or something that you're not capable of, serious injury can result. It seems that lately, putting a very, very heavy weight on the bar and just doing a very, very short, minimal movement is pursued by a great many people. I do not know where they got that particular. There is a certain advantage in doing that, but not throughout the entire workout. It is part of a strength development program that you may be well advised to pursue. But that's way down the road, way down the road. A range of motion, bringing the resistance through the full range of motion so the muscle fully contracts and fully expands is what the general guideline is, and you should try and follow that. The risks with heavy weight, of course, are injury. The risk with lightweight is, again, discouragement. So keep those in mind. Try and initially, whether it's with a personal trainer or whether it's a trainer that's employed by the gym that you join, doing the movement correctly, adherence to form is important, and that's what prevents you from getting injured. Resistance training machines are developed now where you don't even have to touch a barbell or a dumbbell. You can get most of your workout done on a machine. And so your risk is the machines are relatively safe. That does not mean that you cannot get injured on these machines. You can. So you have to be aware of how they're operated. And a good gym will introduce you to the machines and how to use them. So you should pursue them. So let's review for just a second. Aerobic conditioning, start out with walking, 15 minutes a day to create the habit, and then gradually increase to 30 minutes plus every day, or 5 days a week. When you approach any exercise program, try and have an objective outside of the gym, so you can utilize the improvements that you acquire. And then when you do exercise, it's effective, efficient, safe, and you're not so tired you can't do it again the next day, or at least 2 days later. Resistance training is important, in many cases more important than aerobic exercise, and you should, again, start slowly with perhaps one set of 10 to 12 repetitions with a reasonable weight, and then gradually work up to 3 or 4 sets with that particular exercise. As your muscular capacity increases, you can increase the resistance. That's simple. When you get done, 10 minutes of stretching will provide for elimination, not elimination, but certainly minimizing muscular soreness and pain. And keep in mind that you should feel better after the workout. And please ignore no pain, no gain commentary from people who do not know what they're talking about. And that's kind of where we stand on that. So the rewards are numerous, too numerous even to mention. Enhancement of your life, providing for the freedom to participate in things that As you get older, you may want to enjoy playing with your children, your grandchildren, playing a round of golf without winding up with a dislocated disc at the end of the 18 holes. Playing tennis without worrying about muscle strains and shoulder strains. All of these things, an active lifestyle, an increased quality of life, things that allow you to do things to enjoy life and to not suffer the consequences of essentially inactivity. It seems that of all of the causative factors of the aches and pains and the negative aspects of aging, inactivity seems to be the worst. The worst case, you do nothing. If you can simply walk 20 or 30 minutes a day, you're way ahead of the game. And finish off with a little bit of stretching. And if you can do 10 push-ups every day, that's fine. If you can, again, on the internet there are 100 different people who will give you all kinds of training regimens. I stress this, that the people who do broadcasts like I do, and they go through the entire training regimen, they don't know who's listening. They don't know you. So what they are saying may be appropriate for you, and it may not be appropriate for you. I'm not saying they're not telling the truth. Perhaps they are, and many of them are. But the point is, does that information apply to you? And if it does, fine. But again, approach it carefully. Err on the side of caution. If you feel fatigue, stop. If you feel twinges, stop. The rest regimen is between a total body workout, meaning working all the muscles in the body. You need 48 hours rest to allow those muscles to recuperate. You do not get stronger while you're exercising. You get stronger when you have finished exercising with adequate nutrition, and the muscles regenerate, and they become stronger in that regenerative process. So be cautious, be safe, be enthusiastic, commit yourself to a long term as part of your lifestyle, and I guarantee you, I am 77 years old, and I see 77-year-old people around me, and it's just simply sad. Many of them have worked all their life, and they've done everything right, and they have grandchildren and children, but they can't spend the time they want because they simply get too tired. They simply get too tired, or they're too sick. The single best thing you can do, if you're doing it now, congratulations, stick with it. If you're not, it's never too late to get involved in an exercise program that's minimal to begin with, that can be done on 3 or 4 times a week. Once a week is simply not enough. Your body will go back to its normal operating procedure after 5 days of inactivity. Inactivity will hurt you and will cause you all kinds of problems. Activity will help you, as long as it's not too much. Not too little, not too much. So moderation in all things, including moderation, I suppose. Anyway, this is a very general broadcast tonight, the rewards and risks, many of which you are already aware of. I hope this is helpful, and I hope at the end of next month, on the 4th Tuesday of each month, I'll be doing an English broadcast. If you understand Japanese, I will be doing a weekly broadcast every Tuesday evening, 7:30, and Kenko Dojo. And I hope this is beneficial, and I wish you all the luck. And if you need any assistance, you can listen in on Tuesday nights and just type in English, "What about this?" Or you can look at my homepage, chuckwilson.co.jp, and drop me a line. And whatever you would like to discuss, we can talk about that. So since we have covered initially the introduction, what fitness is all about, the World Health Organization's guidelines, we've talked about weight loss, which a lot of people are concerned about, and tonight just a general exercise programming, the rewards and risks of exercise and what you should do. So a little bit more specific, I'd like to get into lower back problems. I just conducted a seminar, so I have it fresh in my mind, and perhaps if you have lower back problems, I can show you some things that might alleviate them, and in many cases might cure them. Well, I hesitate to use the word. There's no assurances they will certainly reduce the discomfort. So, I'll see you in about a month, and if you'd like to have anything to say or comment on, please let me know. I'd be happy to accommodate. And that's it. I hope you have a nice evening, and I'll see you in a month. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.